How do we know? How do we know Elazar's yahrzeit?
I don't know, but Aaron Coin is mentioned before.
Yes,
It's
right.
it's mentioned before in the Torah.
Right. How do we know Elazar?
I don't know. I do not know that. I should have focused on that when I was reading my information, but I don't remember. Okay, so yesterday we had a problematic Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said that when it comes to mace baila, if two Eidim said mace baila and two Eidim said loy mace, harezu loy tinasei vim nises loy seitze. But if the same thing happened with Gittin, then you say vim nises teitze. The Gemara wanted to know what's the difference between Gittin and mace. So we had two terutzim yesterday, and today we're going to learn the third teretz. The first teretz was from Abaye, that it's not speaking, we have to amend what Rabbi Yochanan said. It's not Shnayim Omer Meis and Shnayim Omer Loy Meis. It's Eid Echad Omer Meis and Eid Echad Omer Loy Meis. And then Eid Echad, when it comes to the testimony of Meis to be Matar Naguna, they were miming him Kishnayim. And therefore, the second Eid that says Loy Meis is not believed at all. If that's Pshat and Rabbi Yochanan, why does Rabbi Yochanan say Harezu Loy Sinasei? If we believe the first Eid and we don't believe the second Eid at all, then Lechatchila let her get married. So for that, the Gemara brought a Svar of Abasi that says Hasam Imcha Ikshus Peh Velazus Vasayim Harchek B'Mcha. Don't do things that are going to make people judge you not properly. So although there's a mitzvah of B'Tzedek Tishbot is Hamisecha, you have to done something like Kavschus, the person doing the action should try to make it easy for people to done in the Kavschus. Don't do things that will raise eyebrows. That was the first shot from Abaye that was offered to Rabbi Yochanan. Rava had a different shot. Rava said it was treininu, except that Rabbi Yochanan felt that a woman is more believed, and therefore we don't make her get divorced when she claims that her husband died. Why? Because if her husband shows up, it's going to prove her wrong. So therefore, she's going to be more sure that she's right. But when it comes to Gerishtani, if she's just claiming that he divorced her, she's not concerned, and because even if he denies it, she'll insist that he divorced her. And even though Rav Hamnuna said that somebody wouldn't have such a chutzpah to say to her husband, "You divorced me," if it wasn't true, she has Eidim supporting her in this case, because Rabbi Yochanan's case was when two Eidim said that you got to get, and two Eidim said you didn't get a get. But there were two Eidim who said you got to get. So therefore, she has strength to be meyes, even if it's not true. Therefore, since she's more likely not to say the truth, we therefore force her to be divorced if she remarried. So those were the two pshatim we had in Rabbi Yochanan. And now we have a third pshat in Rabbi Yochanan, which is Rav Asi. So Rav Asi Omar, so this is 5 lines from the bottom of Chav Beis, Amud Beis. Rav Asi Omar, Kegoyin da Amri Eidim, Achshav Meis, Achshav Girsha. We don't have Eidim that said he died many years ago. The Eidim are saying that he just died, or he just recently gave a get. And Rashi says, Achshav Meis Hayoim. He just died, or he just gave a get. So what is the difference between Gerishin and Misa? Zok to Gemara, Misa leka levrura. There's no way to know if someone really died. Why not? Rashi says something fascinating. Im amru tova b'mayim, if they said that he drowned, or he was a victim of a lion, well, in those cases, exactly how are we going to be mevared? There is no body. If there's no body, we have no way of proving it. Therefore, only lechatchila she should not remarry. But if she got married anyway, to Rabbanan, like the original Rabbanan who said that we will not force her to give it to be Mugurashes. I was speaking where she said Barili and where the aid where the aid is the one, the aid that said he died is the one who's marrying her, so there's no problem of Asham Tali. However, when it comes to a get, Gershon Ikalavura, Damrin law, Imisa the Hachiava, Axelan Gitach. By Gittin, there's a very big strike against her because we're saying it just happened. Well, if it just happened, but you should still have your get. Ax the Gidach. The Bishaita Porta, she normally, if she claims she's Migareshes, we'll ask her, let's see the get. So in a case where the get, she claims the get happened years ago, there she could say, I lost it. But we're talking about something that happened today, therefore she's not believed. So Zakir B'Yochanan, if she gets remarried and she can't produce her get, we'll force her to be divorced. But if her husband dies, there's no strike against her because she has no way of showing that he died if there's no body, and therefore she could stay married. The Achronim are medayik, an unbelievable thing from Rashi. Why can't you prove it? Because one of two things happened. So we're not speaking about any agent said mace. It's only in a case where there's no way to retrieve the body, such as Tava B'Mayim or Achlervi. So what would be the halacha if he was buried? It seems from Rashi that there we would be mivarit. We would actually dig up the body to see if it's the right person. And this leads to a very big shaila. Because what is the halacha? What happens if there's a woman who's in a guna and we're not 100% sure that her husband died, but there is a body? Would you be allowed to dig up the body to verify that this is her husband so that therefore we could be mad to her? And there's a big machlokes in the Achronim about whether or not you're allowed to. There are those who learn that it's usher under any circumstances to dig up a mace. But then there are those who tell that even though it's a bezoin for the mace, but he wants his wife to be free. He doesn't want his wife to be in the guna. So maybe that would be covered a mace. But then there's a svara, how can you do it? What if this is not him? If you know for sure it's him, Mamela, but you don't know it's him. So who said you could dig up some other mace because maybe it's her husband? So there's actually a big controversy based on being medayik from this Rashi, because from this Rashi it seems to indicate that if the body was already buried, you would not be able to dig it up in order to check. So that is the shaila.
But what design on mace is an Indian more. It's not a lav, right? It's a.
No, it's not, I don't think there's a lav on it, but I don't know.
We're being makeled on many aguna issues. We're being makel on derisis, and here this is not even a lav, and they don't want to do it.
Well, from Rashi, actually, you could.
No, I understand, but you said it's a controversy. So according to the people that says you can, right? I mean, what's really wrong with it? I mean, derisa is not a problem.
That's a very good question. What is the reason why you're not allowed to dig up a mace?
So it's like you said, it's covered on mace, okay? But that's in more of an Indian rather than a lav.
I'm not sure. Now that we're facing this issue point blank, where does it say that one's not allowed to uncover a mace? So I don't know my halachas of covering a mace, but there must be a strong prohibition against it, even if it's not allowed. But I don't know.
My point is that they're very makel on derisis, on possible derisis, Suffolk derisis. This is not a Suffolk derisa to dig up.
The thing is, if they're makel on, even if she's a Suffolk ish and they let her get married, for sure, this is something. Yeah, that's what many of the people, many of the Chayim Taina, and also bring right from Rashi.
Yeah.
It's an interesting shaila. Okay, so let's see the Gemara. Tanu Rabban. So we've now had three different pshatim in how to understand Rabbi Yochanan. Tanu Rabban. Shnayim oimim niskacha. If two Eidim said that this woman was niskadish, she accepted kedushin. Shnayim oimim lo niskacha. And two Eidim came along and said no, she did not accept kedushin. The loch is harezu lo sinase. Of course, Rashi says la'achar. She's not allowed to get married because she might be a married woman. V'mnisis. But if she didn't marry when she wasn't supposed to, because she might be already mikudeshes to somebody else, Loy Seitze, we don't force the second husband to divorce her. What about Shnaim Amim Niskarsha? Two Eidim said she was Niskarsha. So the default there was that she was married, and two Eidim said she was divorced. Shnaim Amim Lo Niskarsha. Then Arezu Loy Sinase, she may not remarry. Vim Nises Teitze. And if she did marry, she would have to divorce her husband. Frek to Gemara, Ma'ishna Reisha and Ma'ishna Seif. What's the difference between the Reisha, which is the case of Niskacha, where we say that Memnisis Loy Seitze, and the case of Niskarsha, where we say Memnisis Teitze? Amar Abaye, Tergama Beirachad. Let's explain that the Brisa is not speaking where it's two Eidim in each direction. It's one Eid in each direction. So if only one Eid said Niskacha, and the second Eid said Niskacha, Tarvayu b'pnuya kamisadi. We know that the baseline was a pnuya. The question is, did she become niskadeshes to somebody? The Haida coming Niskacha and the Eid Echa that said Niskacha, Havel Echad, he's one Eid, Vein Devar Shalechad b'makom Shnayim, and he is not Neman neged the two Eidim who both agree that she started off as a pnuya. Seifa Eid Echad Oimin is Garsha, Veid Echad Oimin is Garsha. Once again, Tervayu Beishishishka Masadi. They both agree that this woman had a chetzka seishish. The Haida Gamin is Garsha, and the aide who wants to claim that she was Niskarsha, Havel Echad, he's one aide, Mein Dvarav Shalechad b'mokim Shnayim, when we have two aidim that both agree that she started off with the chazaka being an eshishish. Rav Ashi wants to offer a different shot in this brisa. Lo'edem trei. So if you have two Eidim saying Niskadeshes and two Eidim saying not Niskadeshes, or two Eidim saying Nisgarsha and two Eidim saying not Nisgarsha. But ve'epach, we need to flip around. Rather than say, by the case of two Eidim saying she got married, and two Eidim saying she didn't get married, rather than they're saying that if she got married, she could stay married, Adrabah, by that case, we say he has to divorce her. But if there's two Eidim that said she was Niskareshes, and two Eidim that said she's not Niskareshes, there, this is Loiteitze, which is counterintuitive, because the Chazaka is against her by Gershon. The Chazaka says that she's a Neshish. So how do we understand that? Zok Gemara, let's elaborate. Shnaim oimim re'inua sheniskacha. The case was where two Eidim came and said, we saw that this woman accepted Kedushin. Therefore, she's now a Neshish. Ushnaim oimim loy re'inua sheniskacha. We didn't see that she got married, but we weren't supervising her 24/7, 365. We just didn't see that she got married. There, there we have to assume that she's an ish, and she's not allowed to remarry. Then this is Teitze. Why is that a chiddush? Why would the Mishnah need to tell me that? Why would the Brisa need to tell me that? The fact that we didn't see that she got married, that's not a raya that she never got married. Loy ra'inu should not be a raya. Zok Gemara, Loit Shricha. The diary b'chotzer echad. We're talking about these two families, the Eidim, as well as it's actually three families, the two Eidim, and this woman lived in one chotzer. They lived in one courtyard, which means it typically you would know if your neighbor is getting married. What would you say? Im Isa diniskacha, if she was niskadish, kala isla lemilsa. You would know if your neighbor is getting married. Kamash malon, that we are machmer the avdi inchi the mekachi betina. It happens that people get married under a very quiet conditions where people don't know about it, and therefore loy renew is a raya because it's possible that your neighbor got married and you didn't know about it. But Seifa is speaking by Gershon. Two people are aware of the get, and two people are not aware of a get. There, but this is loiteze. There, we will say that even if she got remarried, she won't have to get divorced. Why? My kamashmalon. The chiddush is afal gav the dari b'chatzer echad. Even though they live in the same chatzer, and if someone said loy ra'inua shenis garsha, they would have known if she got divorced. You would know if your neighbor got divorced. Kamash malon, that no, you wouldn't necessarily know.
Renew doesn't mean no. It means I didn't see.
Correct.
So even if I heard, it doesn't mean that I
And nichnami, but it means I can't testify that it happened. That's right. So why would we need to tell me the same chiddush? We already know that lo yirei is not a raya. We already know that from the previous chiddush, from the case of kedushin. So there's a very big difference. Ma'udetema gabe kedushin hu davidi inchi the mekachi betzina. You might argue that kedushin could happen even though lo yirei. Kedushin will happen privately. That happens. People elope. Aval gabe gerushin never happens quietly. Aval gabe gerushin the misa the igrisha. If in fact there was a real get, kala isla milsa, it would have been known about, and therefore lo yirei maybe is a raya because he should have known. It's something that would have been known. Kamash malon that even a get could happen. David inchi de mekachi. It's possible that someone could marry somebody and nobody would know about it, and it's possible that somebody would divorce somebody and no one would know about it. So this loy ra'inua ain't a raya. I never saw such a thing. That's not a raya. So this actually is a big zach. So Rabbi Moshe Feinstein in his Anivos has written several times in his Chuvas when people ask them about things. He said, "I never saw this anywhere. I don't know any place in Shas where it talks about this." But he adds, "But lo yirei ain't a raya. It's not a raya just because I never saw it."
Wow.
So Rav Moshe uses those words. But where it's negei halacha, l'mamish halacha is there's actually a shaila if a woman is allowed a shecht. There's a shaila if a woman is allowed a shecht, and the place can say that she's not allowed a shecht because lo yirei in all the generations we've never seen something like a woman shechting.
Well, posted, not shifting, but you did see, on a verse.
Moshe's wife?
No,
Moshe Rabbeinu, yeah, but shechting not,
Yeah.
right? So the question is,
Middle will be okay.
yeah. So there are Rishonim, there are poskim who say that the reason why we can't consider a woman shechting is because we never found shechazach, so therefore it can't be allowed. The problem is they ask, how could you say that? Our Gemara says lo yirei ain't a raya. So there are poskim who will make a chiluk. When do you say lo yirei ain't a raya? That's something that doesn't happen every day. Like in our case, people aren't getting married every day, or people aren't getting divorced every day. So in such a case, just because I didn't see someone get married, just because I didn't see someone get divorced, that's not a raya that didn't happen. But shchita, if shchita that happens multiple times every single day, which is a steady thing, and lo yirei there maybe it is a raya. So there are those poskim who say that lo yirei in a raya is only something that does not happen frequently. But if something that happens very frequently, then lo yirei might in fact be a raya.
that means that if she shecht, it's well not
There's a saying that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
Very good. That's exactly what lo yirei means. What are you saying?
Some of the issue with shecht is not going to be crucial.
I don't know. We have to look at the poskim. There's such a shaila. I don't know. Let's see the Gemara right here. This is Bo'edim lo seitze. Rabbi Oishia maskin lo reisha. So this goes back to the Mishnah where we actually had a discussion when we learned the Mishnah. What is it talking about? The Mishnah quoted two cases. There was the case of Aisha Shamara, Aisha Yishi Ugrushani. She's neman because of Pesha Asar. Then there's Edim that said that she was an Aisha Shish and she claims Grushani. We say she's not believed. And then there was the case of Nishpesi V'Toyrani, and there was merely a question of whether or not she's allowed to marry a Kohen. The question is, do we assume that she was violated? And again, we say Pesha Asar if she told us about the Shmuel, but if we know from the Edim, then she's not Nemenis. And then at the end it says V'Mishanisis. So the question is, what does this mean? Is this referring to an Ashish Ish who Edim came along and said she's an Ashish Ish? And she said Grushani, so she was not allowed to get remarried. And she got married anyway. And then V'Mishanisis Bo Edim, Harezu Lo Seitze, is it referring to the case where after she got married, then Edim came along and said that she was once married? There it's Lo Seitze? Or is it referring to the second case, where after she got married to a Kohen, Adam came along and said that she was nishbus. What is this case referring to? So let's see the Halei the Gemara. Rabbi Yosy learns this is referring to the Reisha, meaning she got remarried, and then Adam came along and said that she was once married. So we say Lo Seitze, because when she got married, there was a Pesha Asar, and the problem only occurred later. Rabbi Bar Avin Masin La Seifa, meaning if she married a Kohen, because she told us she was Nishbis, and with a Pesha Asar, we paskin that she was not violated, and therefore she's mutter to a Kohen. She marries the Kohen, and then later on, Edom came along and said Nishbis. So it sort of retroactively undoes her Pesha Asar. That's where the Mishnah tells us that she could remain married to the Kohen. Now let's think, which is a bigger Chiddush? Is it a bigger Chiddush that she could remain married to a Kohen even though she was Nishbis? So there's two kulas over here. A is it's only a question of a lav of her marrying a Kohen, and B, even if there's Edom that are Nishbis, there's not Edom that say black and white she was violated. Or is it? I would say it's a much bigger Chiddush, the Reisha. Even though we know for sure she was married and she was an Eishes Ish, and there's an Isser Misa for her to remarry, we nevertheless let her stay married. So I would say the Reisha is a much bigger Chiddush. So Zok to Gemara, Rabbi Yosy Masla Reisha, Rabbi Bar Avin Masla Seifa. Man the Masla Reisha Kol Sheken Seifa. If even Lagabe a Eishes Ish, we let her remain married to her second husband, Kol Sheken. If it's merely a suffix shvuya, we would let her remain married to the kohen. The shvuya hikila, because they were makel by a shvuya. But uman de masnin la seifa. Oh, Gavalta, thank you very much. Uman de masnin la seifa, and the man de Omar, who learns it on the seifa, meaning only in the seifa by a case of shvuya do we allow her. Thank you so much. Do we allow her to remain married to the kohen? Aval reish aloi. But when it comes time to a Shiloh and Israel, there maybe if Adam came along and said that she was married, we would make her get divorced. Let's say whether or not you apply this halacha that she could remain married, even though Adam came and said she was married before. Let's say that's totally Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna told us earlier that a woman is believed that she's divorced because a woman would never be meiz and deny that she's married. She would never tell her husband that she was divorced if she wasn't. So let's say that's what the machlokes is. The man the masnila reisha is the Rav Hamnuna. The man damar who says it on the reisha, meaning a woman who said that she was divorced, even though we had Adam that she was married before, we believe her that she was divorced, and therefore it's Kloi Seitze. That's very consistent with Rav Hamnuna that we believe her. In fact, that she was divorced because she's not going to be maids. But if you only learned that she could remain married in the case of a suffix shvuya, then less like the Rav Hamnuna, they would not only Rav Hamnuna, and therefore she's not believed to say that she was divorced. Zok Merloi, Lav Dafke is the upshot in our machlokes. Let's say the Chula Alma Islu de Rav Hamnuna. Maybe everybody holds of Rav Hamnuna that you could believe her when she claims that she divorced. But Rav Hamnuna is not relevant to our Mishnah because the Mar Savar, one man holds, Ki Itmer Rav Hamnuna. Where did Rav Hamnuna say that a woman has an emunah to say that she was divorced? Because she would never lie in front of her husband. That's only b'fanav. To her husband's face, she would not lie and say that she was divorced. Although shaloi b'fanav, over here her husband is not around, me'iza. So therefore she could not be trusted to say that she got divorced. Because she would be meiz, because now she's not face to face with her husband, and therefore he applies v'mnisis loiseitze only to the seifa, to the case of where she was a suffix violated, whether or not she's mutter to kohen. Umar savar, but the mandamar who holds that it's even going on the reisha. So Rabbi Yosy who holds it's even going on the reisha, meaning she's even believed that she's migureshes. Shaloi b'fanav name ene me'iza. Rabbi Yosy must hold that even shaloi b'fanav, even though her husband's not here, she wouldn't be meiz, and she still has the same nemanos of Rav Hamnuna. She has the same nemanos of Rav Hamnuna, even though her husband's not around. So that would be the machlokes. Gevaltik. Sagt der Gemara weiter. Wem nicht ist Bo Edom. Amar Avuda Shmuel. This is a beautiful Gemara. Amar Avuda Shmuel. Lo nisis mamish elakivin she tiruli nase aval bishla nisis. The halacha is, the Mishnah says all the way at 10, that if she married, so let's pick a case of shvuya. Let's say it's going on shvuya. So what happened is she said, I was nishbis utahayrani. So she had a pesha asar. We passed for her, you're allowed to marry a kohen. Then she married a kohen, and Edom came along and said that she was nishbis. So the Mishnah says, once she got married, she doesn't have to divorce. Zokt Avud Shmuel, even a greater chiddush. Once there's a psak din on her that she could remarry, even if Edom come later, she could continue to remarry. So not only if she's married, we don't make her divorce, we let her marry lichatchila. Once she came with her pesha asar, and we believed her that she was not violated, there's a psak upon her, you may remarry. Even if Edom comes later and says that she's nishbis, she's still allowed to remarry. She holds on to that psak. Frag the Gemara on Avud Shmuel, how could you say that? The Mishnah doesn't say she's allowed to marry lichatchila based on the psak. The Mishnah says vimnisis loy seitze, which would indicate dafka if she actually did get married. But loy seitze katani. Zok the Gemara loy seitze we would translate as mehiteira harisha. She will not lose out. She will not lose her original psak halacha that was given to her by Bezdin, that being that you were a pesha asar at this moment, we are being mater you to remarry. And in fact, even if Edom come later, we even allow you lechatchila to remarry based on the psak that was given.
Isn't this opening the can of worms? Everybody that's going to be an issue is going to come around to that.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen. The Gemara is being masses. That's exactly what's going to happen. Tadar Rabbanan. Amar nishbesi. What happens if a woman comes and says nishbesi? Utayrani. So she has a pesha asar, but she talked too much. She also added additional information. V'yeshli edim shetayarani. I have edim that were with me in captivity the entire time, and they can say testimony that I'm tahor. Ein oimrim namtin ad sheyavo edim. We don't say, oh, really? If there's edim, we're not going to let you remarry. Let's wait till we can actually hear testimony from those edim, and we will not rely on your pesha asar. Elamatir noisa miyad. They allow her to get married based on her pesha asar. We don't even though she claims she has edim, we don't wait until the edim come. We're matter her immediately. Now, what happens if he tiru nasi? They allowed her to remarry based on her pesha asar. The achar bo edim, and then her two edim who she claimed can verify that she was not nitmas. Well, Amru, they said, Lo Yodanu, I don't know what she's talking about. We did not watch her the whole time, and we have no idea what happened. So now it's undone her testimony that she should have never offered in the first place. Nevertheless, we still say that she can remain married. However, in Bo Edituma, what if Edom came along and said, we saw for a fact that she was violated? Well, then, even if she's married to a kohen and they have multiple children, and now it's going to break up the family, nevertheless, Teitze, because this woman is a Surah Labaila, because she has the status of a Zayda. She has the status of a Zayda. Right? Even if she has multiple, because there's Edom Shenitmas. So now we have a fascinating story. So Chaim said, if you have this Pesha Asar that can't be revoked, even if Edom come later, well, any Shavuya is going to quickly come to Bezdin. And the answer to that is it's exactly what's going to happen, and that's exactly what should happen. Hanish Shvuyasa, Rachmon al-Tzlan, there were some captured girls. Now, the only way I could get my head around it is the captors. We're going to see the captors are there. And it seems like the captors are there, and they bring these girls to Jewish communities, and they sell them. That's how they make their money. They get them ransomed, because they know the Jewish community are going to buy them, are going to ransom them. So it's even known. I would always scratch my head if you're a kidnapper and you come to a city and you want to sell me these these victims. So why don't we go kill the kidnappers? I guess in those days, kidnappers must have been protected. Could be they had a Biden Department of Justice, because we'll see here that the captors are right here, and we pay them off. Why don't we just kill them? Unless they had power, I'm not sure exactly how that works.
And I think the power dynamic isn't working in their favor here.
Say that again.
They could be the authorities even. They could be the authorities.
Yeah,
They don't show up themselves. They send the shliach. They find somebody and say, we have these two girls, and
but we don't just grab the girls. We actually ransom them. I guess they have the power to hold on to them. Somehow they were given some. They must have some authority to do that. Right. So they claim. So they claim that we own them. I guess that's how the slave market works. Every slave market.
We're in Gullus. This is talking in Bavel. The
Right.
Yidden are in Gullus and Bavel, and the locals are.
I guess
They're
they'll
in
claim.
control.
I guess that they can keep them. I guess they can claim that we didn't kidnap them. They sold themselves to us, or we paid for them.
Why? I don't. You think the Russians are playing that way with the Ukrainians? No.
I hear. Okay. So Rahman al-Islam, there's a community, and there's two girls that come in. Of course, they run around the shul. Pidin shvuim. We have two girls, so we have to redeem them. Avud Shmuel said, he immediately dispatched, even before they could raise the money to redeem these girls, he immediately dispatched two people to go stand by the slave market and watch them and make sure you don't let them out of your sight. Now, we're soon going to see Shmuel's intention was not to be matter them, because up until this point, they're already shvuyos, and it's already a suffix that they were nevelos. Shmuel was doing it because they were violated until now, it doesn't mean we shouldn't provide them protection. These poor girls are in captivity. We don't want them to be violated again. So if we send people to watch the whole time, at least they'll be afforded some level of protection. So Shmuel told his father, I don't understand, because Shmuel didn't realize that his father was doing it just to protect them from further violation. He thought that his father was doing it so that they would be mutter to marry Kaihanim. So Shmuel told his father, Vada idna mana trinu, and up until now, who was watching them? In other words, why are you sending Shomrim? They won't change the halacha. So Shmuel's father said something, Al tiftach pelasotim, and he said, Ilu bantach havyon, Shmuel, my dear son, if your daughters were in captivity, mi havis mizalzabu kulahai, would you not want them to be watched every moment? Or would you say, they're possible to Kohanim anyway, let's not worry about them. You wouldn't think to say something like that if it was your own children. It's like a mistaken judgment that came out from the ruler, and Tzaddik Gozer HaKadosh Baruch Hu Makayim, even though Avada Avush the Shmuel did not mean to create such a terrible scenario. V'ishtavion Bante Dumar Shmuel, and Rachman al-Tzlon, Shmuel's daughters also became victims, and they were captured. I believe we once had somewhere before where Shmuel, they were talking about Hilchos Avelis, and Shmuel asked somebody, why are your nails so long? Or he was a novel. So someone told him back, oh yeah, and if you were a novel, you wouldn't leave your nails growing. And right after that, Shmuel became a novel as well. So Shmuel was a victim of Kishkaga Sheyoshim Mefnei Shalit.
I always tell the doctors, okay, if you, not me, if somebody had, and I'm so mad with this,
It's funny. It's funny you said that, because Rabbi Elephant spoke out that the Chassam Sofer got a shaila from his Eidim Rabbi Kiveger about a shaila of Hilchos Availos that was not Nagel Lichol Ma'aser. The Chassam Sofer was the Shver of Rabbi Kiveger. Was Eidim? Okay, so could be Rabbi Kiveger. I think Rabbi Kiveger sent his Eidim a shaila. He said to Chassam Sofer, I think that was the case. It was a shaila that was not Nagel Ma'aser. And the Chassam Sofer writes back, oh, if Avush shixed me these shailas, why are you sending me these shailas? Al tiftach pelasot. And he said, and right after that, the Chasam Sofer became an uvel. He says, look, even though the Gemara says that for people who are makbid on it, they're going to suffer for it. And people who aren't makbid aren't going to suffer. So he told the Bekivaka, I know you're not makbid, so you don't suffer, but ich bin makbid, and I'm suffering, please don't send me such childless. Right.
That if we learn the haluchas, then it doesn't happen.
I hear.
So the mitzvah comes to Hashem, nobody looks at me. So make the shayla that the Rabbanim should learn.
So let's see what happened over here. So Rechmanos and Shmuel's daughters got captured. Vaskinul Ard Yisrael, they were brought to Yisrael. Ukman, so you see, even in Yisrael, the Yidden didn't have enough power. Ukman lishmunayu me'avroi. So listen to what these girls did. These girls told their captors, do me a favor, stay in the back. Stay in the back. We want to go into the Besmedish for a second. You wait outside. These two little girls went into the Besmedish of Rabbi Chanina. They went into the Besmedish of Rabbi Chanina. Ha'amra nishbesi utarani, v'ha'amra nishbesi utarani. And they both right away said nishbesi utarani. They used the pesha asar. They were smart enough to know that they should quickly do the pesha asar. Sharinu, and therefore Rabbi Chanina was mad to them. Soif, oil, also shvunayu. And then their captors came. So Amar Chanina says, oh, these children, these girls are the sons of big Talmid, are the daughters of a big Talmid Chacham, because they have that they want to be mutter, they have to come with the pesha asar. And in fact, he found out that these were the children of Mar Shmuel. So Amar Chanina Rav Shaman Barabba, Rabbi Chanina told Rav Shaman Barabba, who was related to them, who was a kohen, you should go marry them because you're responsible for your family. And he was paskening as a kohen that he's allowed to marry these girls. How could we do that? We know for a fact that there are Eidim in Medina Sayyam who are going to say that she was Nishbis. On that, Rabbi Chanina answered, they didn't come now. We have a Pesha Asar. Eidim b'tzad Istan b'tei Asar. Because of Eidim in the other side of the world, she should be Asar here now. They're not here. So this seems to say that the only reason why they're mutter is because the Eidim didn't come yet. If Eidim would come now after they already had the heter of Pesha Asar, they're going to become Asar. Didn't Abu de Shmuel say that once they had their heter, even though they didn't marry, we don't revoke the heter even though Eidim come later and they lose their Pesha Asar? What these people were saying was not that there's Eidim that she was Nishbis b'Soif Olam. There's Eidim that we know that they became Tamei, and therefore we cannot marry them.
How do they know?
How they know? I don't. How they knew? I don't know.
This that they got gefangen. Okay, everybody knew.
I don't know the answer.
But Art Scroll says that there's just a concern that there's a rumor that there are such witnesses.
So that's what Tosh says. Vayotza koil the ikahasam edei tumah kidepirashti. Right. So that's what the article says. So he's bringing it down from Tosh. Now the problem over here is we're singing the praises of these girls. Are they liars?
I forgot the other because Mura said was that so massive that they were missing the tip of the hand and the gross survivors. Then they found out that they were Kishma. I think it wasn't.
So I'm going to tell you that the Yerushalmi finishes up this story, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe Rabbi Chanina ended up marrying them, and they died right away after. And there's a shaila, what did they do that they should die? So there was a couple of different shailas of why they died, but the Vilna Gaon says an unbelievable shtickle. So there's different shatim could be that to do with a different affair, because what affair did they do? They didn't do anything wrong, but the Gross has a moiridik gezach. Reb Chanina also once upon a time was Maver Deshana. He added an other base, not in Eretz Yisrael. And the halacha is you're only allowed to be Maver Deshana in Eretz Yisrael. And because of that, they died. So the shaila is because Rabbi Hanina did that, they should die for this. What shaykhs do they have? So the Gra says like unbelievable guidance. These were young girls. They were 3 years old, and a woman who's nevelas when she's less than 3 years old, her basulam are kosher. She's not considered a bula. It turns out that their birthday was in Nisan. These girls, their birthday was in Nisan, and they were going to become 3 years old in Nisan. And Rabbi Hanina was Mavrid Shana, which means their birthday got pushed off a month. So when they were nevelas, without being Mavrid Shana, they would have already been 3 years old. Vibalt Rabbi Hanina was Mavrid Shana, they were not 3 years old. So they were saying, we are Basulim, we're Ta'ira. Why are we Ta'ira? Because of Rabbi Hanina's psak. We're talking about 3-year-old girls that were such lamdonim and talmidei chachamim. Based on Rabbi Hanina's psak, we were under 3, and that's why we're not bu'ulos. And they were worried that there's Edom that are going to say that they were bu'ulos. Maybe either they were nevelos again, or maybe because we don't pass like Rabbi Hanina. But that's what the Vilna Gaon says the Chapas, and that's why they died, because they themselves were passing like Rabbi Hanina and passing on themselves that they're basulos when they were really bu'ulos.
So we have 3-year-old female lamdonim who
Massive lamdonim, because Rabbi Raza brought up. Let's think about it. Do you think Shmuel sat by the Shabbos table or by the dinner table discussing women that were captured and violated? No. That's not the discussion that they have around the table. So obviously they were listening to their father's Torah when he wasn't talking to them, and they knew all these intricate halachas. So that's what Rebbe meant. Benan the Marinidin. Oi, these are big talmidei chachamim. These girls, unbelievable. Okay, so Mishnah. There's 2 women shenishpu that were captured. One woman said, yes, I was captured, but I'm tahar. So the loch is they're not nemanis, they don't have a pesha aser. However, if each one says on the other one, if A says B was tahira and B says A was tahira, then they're going to be believed. Why? Zok Rashi, when it comes to shvuya, there's a special kula to trust an erechad, even an isha.
And I feel if it looks like each is mechapa on the other one,
that's called gemulin. Gemulin. I mean, maybe they made up that you should say me and I say you exactly. And we're going to soon see. Sometimes it is a factor, sometimes it's not a factor. But by shvuya, it's not a factor. The Mishnah at the bottom talks about like kahuna. There's a machlokes if that's a problem. Ani timeya v'chaverti Torah. If I am Tomei, she said, I'm Tomei, and my friend is Tahar. Ne'emenes. This case, we're going to call the Reisha, because the Gemara is going to analyze these cases, so we need to identify them. So this case is the Reisha. Ani Tameya v'chavarti Tahar ne'emenes. She's believed. If she said, Ani Tahara v'chavarti Tameya, ein ne'emenes. That's going to be called a Reisha. Ani v'chavarti Tameya, me and my friend were both Tamei, ne'emenes al atma. She's believed to say that she's Tamei. It's a Pesha Asar, but ve'ein ne'emenes al chavarta, she's not ne'emenes to her chavarta's Tamei. This is going to be called a mitziyasa, the center case. What if she said, Aniva chavarti tahira? We're both tahar. Ne'emenes al chavarta, she believed that her chavar is tahar, but ve'ein ne'emenes al atma, she's not believed for herself. That's the seifa. So we have the reisha, the mitziyasa, and the seifa. Amar Mar, let's analyze this brisa. Ani tahar v'chavarti tamei. I'm tahar, she's tamei. Ein ne'emenes there, she's not believed. Hey chidami, let's think about this for a second. If there's no Edom that says she was nishbis, so she should be nemenes with her pesha asar. Al atzma amayloi mehemna. Why is she not believed for herself? She has a pesha asar. Nishbesi Torah nikamer. That's the classic case where a Mishnah says she's believed with a pesha asar. Elopshita, what must be is the ika Edom. In the ratio, there must be Edom that said she was nishbis, therefore she's not believed to say tahirani. Ema mitziyasa. Let's look at the mitziyasa. Ani v'chavarti tmeya. We're both tamei. The halach is ne'emenes al atzma. She's believed to say that she's tamei. That's a pesha asar. Ve'ein ne'emenes al chaverta. She's not believed that her chaverta is tamei. Frankly, more ve'idi ike edom. If there's edom that say that she was nishbis, amai loy mehemna. Why is she not believed? Why is she not believed to say that her chaverta is tameya? We know that her chaverta was nishbis. It must be where there's no Edom. So let's look at the next case. So the first case is the Ike Edom. The second case is the Lek Edom. Now the last case, Ani v'chaverti Torah were both tahor. Nemenes al chaverta, she's believed for a friend. Vein nemes al nafta, she's not believed for herself. V'ida lek edim, if there's no edim, atzma amai lo mehemna. She has a pesha asar. Elapshita dik edim. So now it's very strange because Reisha v'Seifa is dik edim. The Reisha and the Seifa are speaking where there were edim that said that they were captured. Mitziyas and lek edim. And the center case is speaking where there's no edim. It's a very unusual way to learn a Mishnah. Amar Abaya in. Yeah, that's how you'll have to learn. Reisha v'Seifa dik edim, Mitziyas and lek edim. Rav Papa wants to say no. Kula dik edim. Really, there's edim in all cases. Kula dik edim. But the ika eid echad dika apich. There's one thing missing. In all cases that they were edim. They're edim that she was nishbis. So there's no pesha asar. But what we have to add in is whatever this woman said, and the echad came and contradicted her. So now let's go through the cases. Amr ani tamei v'chavarti tahor. She said, I am tamei, and my chaver is tahor. But Amr la echad, but the echad countered her and said exactly the opposite. At tahora v'chavertach tamei. You're the one who's tahor, and your friend is tamei. So for herself, she's believed over the Eid Echad, kashavisa l'nafshe chatichi disura. She's neman on herself to aser. Chavata mishtarya apuma dida. Her chavata is mutter because she already said that her chavata is Torah. Okay. What about in the case where she says, "Ani tahora v'chavarti tameya"? I'm Torah. My friend is tamei. V'amar la Eid Echad, and the Eid Echad came and said exactly the opposite. At tameya v'chavartach Torah. So herself, since there's edim that say that she is nishbis, lav kol kaminei, she's not believed. She doesn't have a pesha aser. Chaverta, her friend, mishtari apumaderech, would be believed because of the eid. How about when she said ni v'chavarti tamei? We're both tamei. V'amar la eidechad.
If she's an ad against the echad.
I'm sorry.
If she's an ad and we believe her, and then there's an ad echad that contradicts her. So why don't we put away both items against?
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
The
two edim are only saying that she was nishbis.
It's two items or one?
The first two edim came and said nishbis.
Okay.
So once it's nishbis, she needs someone to become mutter. Okay. So what happens in the last case? Ani v'chavaki tmeya. We're both tummy. V'amir la'irechad. No. At v'chavdach Torah. You're both tummy. So she herself shavi l'nafshechadichi disura. Therefore, she's also. Chavrusa Mishtariya Puma the aid because there's an aid who said that she's mutter. Why is this last case repeated? That she's believed to answer herself, even though the aid said she's tahor. That's the same case as the Reisha. Hainu Reisha. The Reisha was the same thing, where she said Tamayani, and the aid said tahora, and we believe her because of Shavi Nafshech Chadich Yitzura. Zok to Gemara, no. Mao the Tema Hanu Tavayu Taharisni. Here it's a bigger chiddush in the Reish, in the Seifa. It's a bigger chiddush that we believe her. You know why? Because maybe they're really both tar. Why is she saying that I'm Tameh? Thomas Navshi and Pelishtim Midagavda. Maybe for some reason she hates this other woman and she wants to mess up the other woman. So she's saying the other woman is Tameh. But in order to make her be more believed, she'll say we're both Tameh. That's right. We had such a case before. Well, that was a worse case. That was a case where she'll actually do znus and marry, and it's just to make somebody else. Here she's just saying it. Kamash Malon, that we still say Shavi Nafsha because she asked for herself. Ani v'chavarti tar. What if she were both tar? V'amar la'irechod, and the Eirechod said, At v'chavartach t'meir, you're both tamei. Her, kivan di ke'edim. Since there are edim that says she was nishbis, lav kol kamina. She's not nemenis to say that she's tar. Chavarta mishtariya pumadida. Her chavarta is believed because she was the one who said that her chavarta is tar. That's the ratio of the ratio where she's nemenis to be mater chavarta. So where she believed b'makom the apostle nafsha, where she's saying I'm tama and she's tar, there she's believed because she's pastoring herself. There's a reason why she should have an emunas. But if she's making herself kosher, maybe she's not believed to say that her friend is kosher because maybe she's just trying to do it so it should make her more believable. Maybe she wouldn't have believed. Kamash that even there she's believed. Okay, gewaltig. We'll stop here. Wasn't that an unbelievable?